All right, on behalf of the defendant?
Your Honor, we recall.
Before you have to state the move to admit it,
Oh,
previously marked and identified as the conviction from May 11th of 1982 in terms of our presentation in aggravating circumstances, as well as what we presented in our state's case in chief at the guilt phase of these proceedings. And I've moved to admit all exhibits previously marked and identified, as well as exhibit DD.
Anything for the record on behalf of the defendant?
No objection.
All right. All the exhibits that were previously admitted shall be readmitted for this phase of the case, as well as exhibit DD, which was presented for the court's consideration.
And with that, Your Honor, the state would rest at this sentencing phase.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, on behalf of the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will call Barbara Gessaman. Barbara Wolf Gessaman.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you will answer unto God, not under the pain and penalty of perjury? You may be seated. That is a microphone, and it is important that you speak up loud enough so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can hear you.
Okay.
All right, for the record, if you would please state your name, spelling your last.
My name is Barbara Wolf Gessaman. My last name is spelled Gessaman.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Good morning, Ms. Gessaman.
Good morning.
And you and I met face-to-face for the first time this morning?
Yes.
Okay. And would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you came to be a witness here this morning?
Well, Tony was my student, and he was in the third grade, but I can tell you some other things later about why you came down to my kindergarten room. And then I had seen some of the problems that he had had as he's grown up, and I felt that I really wanted to talk about what I thought might have been a better and helped him more. I wanted the public to know that there was a period of time when we tried to get help.
Okay.
And I could elaborate on that.
And did I contact you or did you contact me?
No, I contacted you.
Okay. And what were some of the problems that he was having?
Well, when he was in the third grade, he had some disruptive problems in his classroom, and the teacher was not sure how to handle it. So she talked to the counselor, and the counselor came down and talked to me. I was a kindergarten teacher, and I said, well, yes, we would try it. They thought it would be a good timeout for him, and so I said we'd try it. So the next day she brought him down and I introduced him to the children, and they stayed for about an hour and then they went back to the third grade classroom. They did the same the second day. On the third day, the counselor brought him down and left him with me and the children. And I said, Tony, I really would like to have you be my kindergarten assistant. You could listen to the children read, help them with their math, help with snack, and sit on the rug with them if they needed it. And he said he would do it.
Let me stop you for a second. Do you know where Tony or who Tony was living with at that time?
Yes, he was living with his grandparents, and they were giving him a very stable home. I'm sorry, I seem to have a frog in my throat. They gave him a very stable home. They loved him, he loved them, and they participated in school activities and were interested in what he was doing in school and how he was doing. So they
Do you know where his mother was?
Yes, I understood that his mother was in prison for prostitution.
Okay. And tell me some of the things that Anthony did in your classroom to assist.
Well, he read with the children. He didn't read with the children. He listened to the children read, and they needed to have all of that experience that they could. And they loved it, have that special attention for them. They always wanted him to be with them and to read, to listen to them read. He also helped with math. He helped with other activities that we were doing in the classroom. And he would sit on the rug while we had story time with them, and I would ask, one time, one of the little children was squirming around, and I did not say a thing to Tony, but he went over and sat by the child. I took care of that.
Okay.
No more squirming.
Okay.
So those were the things. Then there were some other things that we asked. He was in my room an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the afternoon. The rest of the time he was in the 3rd grade.
Okay. And was there any type of special programming at your school that would have benefited him?
Yes, we had designed a program for Tony so that he could get the education on the grade level that he needed, but we could work with disruptive problems, and we did. He did much better back when he went to the 3rd grade and continued to improve there, and he performed beautifully with the children, and they looked up to him, and they were very fond of him.
Okay. Was there a time that he left?
Yes, there was a time.
And tell us about that.
The day before this really happened, the counselor came down and said that Children's Services was putting him back with his mother, that she was out of prison, and he was going to go and live with them. And so the counselor called Children's Services, and they told her that the papers were already signed, that they placed the children with their families when they could, and that's what they told him. So since I had been working with Tony and things were working along very, very well in the 3rd grade and with me and in the playground. And one other thing, could I mention one other thing that he did? When the sun shines and it's 30 degrees outside, little ones will take their coats off because the sun's shining. And I had asked them not to do that because they might get sick. Well, that didn't work. So I asked Tony, who was out playing with his classmates, 3rd graders, if he would keep an eye on them and see if they took their coats to go help them put them back on. And he did. And we didn't have any more coat problems. And then he also saw that they got to play on the equipment because they were out with the general population, and he did that.
Okay.
But then back to what happened when we were told that he would be moving from our school and living with his mother, and the counselor called and didn't get much help. I said, I will call. So I called, and they told me the same thing. And then they said to me, you do your job, and we'll do ours. And that was the end of that. We could have worked together. We had a program that was working for him. Mm-hmm. He was responding positively. And it could have worked out because he could have lived with his mother. We could have gotten transportation through the school system for him to come and be with us. And he could still see his grandparents. And it didn't happen. And I felt so badly that I didn't push somehow harder. I couldn't have helped him perhaps, but I felt guilty about it. I didn't do enough to get them to help him stay in that program.
And you had indicated to me the handwriting was on the wall. What did you mean?
Yes. Well, he came down to our room, to my room in the afternoon, the day he was going to read. or leave, and he brought a book with him that I had given him a couple months before. And he asked me if he could read it to me. And I said, well, of course. And he read it through, hardly a mistake. I was so proud of him because he had to have worked on that. And then his grandparents came down and they left. And the counselor was in the room with me, and we saw him going out of the building, and the counselor said, the handwriting's on the wall. And I said, I'm afraid you're right.
And what did you mean by that?
That he wasn't going to get the support, that things were going to be undone. Going into a new school is, for a young child, is a real traumatic experience sometimes. And so we were afraid he'd get in trouble.
And is going into a new school even more difficult for a child with certain problems?
Yes,
Okay.
it is, because you're on your defensive. Then you can be very, very shy, or you can try to make your presence known, and it is difficult. Socially, it's difficult. Doesn't necessarily mean academically it's going to be difficult, but socially, getting involved and being accepted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. On behalf of the state.
Thank you, Aaron. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I almost said morning, but it is no longer morning.
That's right.
My name is Jennifer Rausch. We've never met before, have we?
No.
I have a few questions for you. If at any point I ask you something and I word it in a strange way, or you need me to clarify, you tell me.
Okay.
Give me the teacher face.
Teacher eye.
All right,
Okay.
do it.
I have
Okay.
one of those.
You don't teach anymore, do you?
No.
But you probably still have those teacher eyes, right?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. Okay. Teacher voice a little bit too there. So just to be clear, you haven't seen who you call Tony for probably over 45 years now.
That's probably.
Okay. And if I understood you right, you were the kindergarten teacher and he was in 3rd grade. You never taught him.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did teach him.
Yes, he brought work down from the 3rd grade.
I apologize. You were not his kindergarten teacher.
No, I was not. He was my assistant.
He was your assistant when he was in 3rd grade.
Yes.
So at that point, he had, his 3rd grade teacher was trying to help him, right?
Yes, I guess so.
Right.
I didn't really.
The 3rd grade teacher went and got help from the school counselor, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And a school counselor came to you and tried to put this program in place.
We worked together on that.
So the school counselor was trying to help him. And you, of course, were trying to help him, right?
Yes.
So there's 3 people there at the school that were trying to help him at least. And
Yes.
sorry, I should have mentioned that. And you also mentioned at that time he was living with his grandparents,
Yes,
and they provided a very stable home life.
that's correct.
So he had access to 2 authority figures or parent-like figures who were providing a stable home life for him, right?
Yes.
You said that they participated in school activities, correct?
Yes.
You told a story about the kids kind of reading and one of the kids was squirming, right? And so if I understood you right, Tony was able to correct that child's behavior.
Well, he went over and sat down with him.
Sure.
Yes.
In a to me, as a parent, that's a very non-confrontational way to confront behavior.
Right.
Right? Rather than, sorry, Miss Van Kulen's always she's always my mannequin, sorry. So rather than putting my hands on her or anything like that, he was able to correct the child in a non-physical manner. And he was able to follow directions and to teach the other children how to follow directions, right? Like on the playground or put their coats on, right?
Yes, he would.
Okay. You had mentioned that you and the other teachers at your school helped develop this program, or I shouldn't say the other teachers at the school, but you helped develop this program for Tony, right? You gotta say yes or no.
Yes.
I'm about to give you my teacher eyes. No, she is. That's what's gonna happen. And I would imagine that, how long did you teach?
32 years.
Okay, so I would imagine during your 33 years, you had the opportunity and the need to develop similar programs for other children.
Yes, I did.
It may not have looked exactly the same.
No, it's not the same because each child is an individual, so.
Right, and so for each individual child, you or whoever else at the school would have to develop whatever program works for those individual children.
That's right.
And I would imagine over the 33 years that you taught, you had to do that for lots of kids, right?
Yes.
But you haven't had to testify for those children, have you?
No.
If I could have one moment.
You may.
Thank you, nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Redirect.
So just so I'm clear, how long was Tony with you?
He came in the beginning of the fall, well, say October, that beginning, and then he left in the spring.
Okay.
It was 73, I think, 73 and 74.
Okay. And he made tremendous improvement.
Yes, he did.
Okay. And he didn't come back the following year.
No.
I think you testified that he was placed back with his mother.
He was placed back with his mother, yes.
Did he ever come back to your school?
No.
Do you know if he ever had any subsequent involvement similar to the involvement that you talked about with you and the counselor and the other people and his grandparents?
Objection.
No, overruled if she knows.
Did he have any involvement back in our school or at the new school?
No. Do you know if he had that sort of involvement at the new school?
I don't know.
Okay. And do you know if he ever had the benefit of the programming that you talked about?
No, because we did it.
Okay.
We made the program.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Pre-cross?
No, thank you.
All right, Ms. Gessaman? Okay, you can step down at this time. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. On behalf of the defendant.
Your Honor, we were called Judith Watson.
There is a microphone.
Okay,
Please speak up loud enough so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can hear you.
okay.
All right, for the record, please state your name, spelling your last.
Judith Watson, W-A-T-S-O-N.
Thank you. You may employ.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Watson.
Good morning.
Would you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what is your relationship to Anthony Pardon?
I'm Anthony's cousin, I'm more like his big sister.
Okay. So, you've known him, who's older, you or him?
I am.
Okay. And do you know Loretta Pardon?
Yes.
Who is Loretta Pardon?
Loretta is Anthony's mother, and she's my first cousin.
Did you ever live in the home with Anthony Pardon and his siblings and Loretta?
Yes.
Did Eric Pardon, Anthony's father, live there at that same time you were living there?
Yes.
Did you ever witness physical abuse? Did you ever witness Eric Pardon beating Loretta Pardon?
I never, well, yes, when I was very, very young. I don't even remember if Anthony was born or not, but it was, I don't think he was born yet.
Okay.
She just had, I think, 3 children at that time, and Anthony wasn't born yet. But yes, I did. I think I was probably about 7.
Okay. You were 7 years old?
No, yes,
Okay. And you witnessed Eric Pardon
Oh,
beat
yes.
Loretta Pardon?
yes, that was a common thing.
Okay. It was a common thing? Okay. And from what you observed, tell me about Loretta Pardon as a mother.
As a
sorry.
mother,
Yeah.
she loved her children. I do know that. But I think the relationship she had with her husband was tumultuous. She was always, getting beat for whatever reason. I don't know, what the circumstances were that would cause the fights. I do know the one that I witnessed at 7 was because she had fixed him some pancakes and they weren't done, and he got angry with her and beat her up. And I was in their bedroom at the time, and so it traveled from the kitchen upstairs. So I witnessed that, and she called my mom to come get me and her and the children. As I got older, I wasn't around them until I went to live with them. So, but I do know that he was beating her at that time as well.
Okay. And tell us what period of time was it that you
Lived with them.
that you're talking about that you
I lived with them. It was my mother passed away in October of 73, and I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And so Loretta's mom wanted me to move away from the apartment we lived in because I was living by myself and I was pregnant. So my aunt made me go live with her daughter. And so I stayed with her and Eric and the children.
And describe the household during that time period.
During that time, it seemed fine. And then something went awry. I don't know what, but I remember a day where our bedrooms were across the hall from each other. And when you opened up I think it was the linen closet door, it would close over top of my bedroom door. And so I felt cold air coming in the house, and I didn't know what it was, why there was air coming in. And she kind of, peeped her head in my door, and she's like, when Eric comes home from work, tell him that I went to look for a job. I didn't get out my bed, because I just had a, newborn baby, And so I said, okay, and so later that evening, he came home and asked me where she was, and I told him, well, she went to look for a job. He said, okay, and he left, and then he came back again, and he said, she's still not home, and I said, no. So then he went in the bedroom and looked in the closet, and all of her clothes were gone. So I assumed that when I felt the cold air coming in, that she was moving the clothes out of the house at that time.
So she just packed up?
She packed up and left, and he was, quite upset, which I can understand. You've left me again and again. And so he gave me his guns, and he told me to put them up. I told him, I said, well, she's my cousin, but, it's not worth it. You have children to take care of, so think about your children, Just forget about her for the minute. And so the next day, he came home with swollen hands, and he found her because they had, it was income tax time, and he was the man that came home every payday and gave her the paycheck.
Okay.
And so she went out and she bought furniture for the house, and then she also furnished an apartment on the west side. And so for some reason, I don't know what made him think to go to the furniture stores that she purchased the furniture at and talk to them and asked them, and they were like, yeah, we remember the lady, and we made 2 deliveries for her. We made one delivery on Middlehurst, and we made another delivery on the west side. And they gave him the address, and when he went to that address, he found her there.
And do you believe that he beat her
Oh,
up?
yeah, he beat her because he came home, he got what money that she had at that time from the income tax return from her, and his hands were swollen.
And do you know why she furnished an apartment on the
She was
west
trying
side?
to, she was trying to get away from him.
Okay. And was she taking her children with her?
No, she didn't take the children.
Okay. So she left the children with him?
Yes.
Do you know if the apartment was for just her, or was it for her and someone else?
It was for her.
Okay. And was, if you know, was it common for her to just leave and leave the kids?
Yes.
Do you know if she was involved with her kids' school and activities?
I don't remember that.
Can I take 1 second?
You may.
Ms. Watson, did you ever see Eric Parton beating his kids?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Cross-examination?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Ms. Watson, you can step down.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, counsel, please approach off the record. All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me apologize to you. When I brought you in earlier, one of the things that I wanted to do was want to thank you for your patience. As I had indicated to you during the time of jury selection, that there would be periods of time, and unfortunately, we would not be able to get started in a timely manner, or we'd take a break longer than what was anticipated. And there were a variety of legal issues that the attorneys and I needed to deal with this morning before we could move forward with this phase. So I just wanted to thank you for your patience this morning, because of the fact, obviously, that you had to wait an extended period of time before we could begin. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and break for lunch, get you back in the jury room at 1:45 to 2. Again, the admonitions still apply. You're not to discuss the case with anyone. You're not to discuss the case among yourselves. You're not to seek or obtain any information outside this court. So enjoy your lunch. See you back in approximately an hour. All rise for the jury. Excuse me. Please be seated. You may be seated, everyone. All right, this is Ms. Parton?
Yes, John.
All right, good afternoon, ma'am. All right, now, I just wanted to let you know, it's my understanding that you are currently under a subpoena to be here today. Okay, and while I understand that's creating an inconvenience because of the fact that we got off to such a late start, okay, because you are under subpoena, you need to remain here until such time as you're called to testify. Okay, a subpoena is a court order. And so what that means is that if you disobey that court order, I can have you brought before me on a contempt hearing for your failing to abide by that court order. And any range of sanctions could be imposed for your failure to follow the order. And so while I can appreciate again that it is a bit of an inconvenience because whatever your schedule was, because you are under subpoena and that subpoena is a court order, you must remain here until such time as you have testified. Okay, Okay, do you have any questions at all? Okay. Again, consult with the attorneys for Mr. Pardon if you have any additional questions. All right? Thank you. All right, we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.